Today's episode of the Mort's Garagecast is brought to you by Goodiez, the app where gamers and collectors go to negotiate the best deals. Download the app now and you can get a brand new physical copy of Paper Mario for the Nintendo Switch at 25% off.
Please tell me, Josh, you aren't one of these monsters that will stretch to fit 16:9.
What day is it?
Don't you wish they took all the joy and childish charm out of the game and just made it dark gray, dark brown?
I don't even know what that is.
I think they're the blue guys, right?
I had to uninstall it because I was like, this is scary.
Oh, this movie is the Oscar winner because it's about a king who has a sprained ankle.
Okay, welcome to the Mort's Garage podcast.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be
guys,
here.
Are we in the
we
attic?
have Finn as a guest.
Are we in the attic or the garage? I'm very confused.
Well, listen, it is a little bit of a misnomer because the attic is metaphorical.
Okay.
The attic's where we stick me.
Okay. It's going to take
But,
a while.
I'm free to go around.
I'm going to need some time to digest this, but I can work with it for now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So Mort's Garage is the main channel. This is the Mort's Attic podcast. I have a slight delay, so feel like I'm on drugs. This is the podcast channel. We're here with Finn McKenty, and Finn runs the Punk Rock MBA. Most of you already know that, but for those that don't, Finn, can you introduce yourself to this audience here?
I am an old man who makes videos on YouTube about old music.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right.
So like the ink spots.
I don't know what that is.
It's like music from Fallout.
Oh, okay. I only know I know what's the Big Iron, and I know the songs.
Big
I don't know
Iron.
the names. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some fun stuff, which is that I noticed, Finn, on your videos, the Metal Gear sound, you referenced JRPGs, and I was like, Josh, wouldn't it be amazing if we had Finn able to join us? And here we are. Finn, tell us your background with video games.
Well, I probably first played a video game in 1983 or something like that, back in the 2600 days. And got very hooked pretty much immediately. And for the people who watching this, I had a very serious retro game or a very serious game collecting habit, probably, in the mid to late 90s up until, maybe the mid 2000s or something like that. At one point I had, 3 Saturns. One is I might still have it, modded and with a region switch. I had 3 different PC engines. I still have on the table next to me here a modded PS1, all that kind of stuff. I have binders with hundreds of burned games in them and stuff. I got rid of almost everything, but I still have a few sort of remnants left around. That's sort of my my secret shame is digging through the bins at GameStop in 1998 trying to get copies of Pocket Fighter on Sega Saturn for $4. Which I did.
Oh, you sound like everyone we interact with.
That's what was that?
That's good.
Take that back.
I was going to say 3 Saturns is half of the total amount that was sold, right? So you owned the majority of Saturns.
Yeah, I was a hoarder, a Saturn hoarder.
All right, Finn, just so we can get to know you even more, give us 3 of your personal favorite Saturn games.
Well, I actually think the Saturn's kind of an overrated console in general, to be honest with you.
Wow. By the way, for people who also don't watch Finn's channel, he's the king of hot takes, and that was a hot take.
Well, I mean, look, it had some amazing ports. For example, the CPS1 ports and CPS2 ports, the D&D games were, way better. With the RAM expansion pack were way better. But, a lot of the games that are sort of the flagship titles, for example, Panzer Dragoon Saga and Burning Rangers, kind of debatable whether they actually hold up, whether you'd want to play them now, in my opinion. Yeah. I did, Radiant Silvergun, I think, is pretty great. I forget if that had a PS1 port or not, but that was pretty good.
I feel like it did.
Did it?
I feel like it did. I don't know.
I don't think so, but maybe it did. Silhouette Mirage definitely did, which was a good game. Although, as I recall, the Saturn version was better. The Saturn version of Symphony of the Night is cool. And of course, Street Fighter Alpha 03, I think the Saturn port of that was the definitive one, especially compared to PS1.
2D fighters were
Yeah.
like thought to be really good on Saturn.
And they were, but for me personally, if they're ports, it's not like they don't count necessarily, but if same with like the early days of the Switch, it's like, wow, this is cool if you want to play the hottest PC games of 2014, It is better now, but in the beginning, I think it was kind of limited. But yeah, I mean, Saturn is cool. Back then, to me, the appeal of it was just sort of like, it was this very sort of exotic thing, because like you said, it just was not popular at all in America. And I would read Game Fan magazine back in the day and drool over the screenshots of these like Saturn games and stuff. And when I finally got a chance to actually get my hands on a lot of them, I did, although I was a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest with you.
Right. And it's, we have to remember at the time, the Saturn was going up against the PSX.
Right.
Which, one of the greatest consoles of all
Totally.
time. So it was not only not probably very good in a vacuum,
Right.
It was up against one of the champions.
God tier, yeah.
So I feel like we're bringing something out of you, Finn, that we're very privileged to have, to know the nerd Finn. This is a good time.
Well, Pocket Fighter, speaking of Pocket Fighter, I did love that game. I played a lot of that on my Saturn. That is the best port of Pocket Fighter for sure. There it is.
No, that's Puzzle Fighter, sir.
Well, close enough.
And Puzzle Fighter is the GOAT for me personally.
Pocket Fighter.
Yeah, Pocket Fighter's great.
Yeah, Puzzle Fighter was cool too.
Josh, I feel like we need to get to our segment.
Okay.
And Finn, we wanted to do a segment where we decided whether things were overrated or underrated.
Okay.
And we haven't given Finn what these are.
Nope.
We've tried to stick with gaming and be a little bit away from music. But if a music thing gets in there, I apologize.
We'll allow it.
I have all of the topics
Yeah.
listed in a random selector. So we don't know what's going to come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit the button, and then I'm going to announce it's time to rate.
My heart is
And-
pounding. I'm gripping the table.
And I got to say, these will take the time they take. So if something is just overrated, we can move on.
What's the form? Am I the only one answering, or are you going?
No, we are all
Okay.
answering, sir.
I'll
Do
decide.
we buzz in, or how do we? Who answers first?
This is more jazz than rock and roll.
Okay.
We're just going to see where it goes.
Pineapple on pizza.
It's a pretty simple one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finn, what do you think? Overrated, underrated?
Well, I feel like it's very hated, so it would be hard
is.
for me to say that it's overrated. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't hate it as much as other people hate it, so I feel like that makes it underrated, even though I don't like it that much.
Okay.
Okay, what if I modified the topic and the zeitgeist opinion about pineapple on pizza I think is overrated? Like, who cares?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right.
It's one of those things that it's sort of like high C. You remember when you were a kid and you would go to the soda fountain, you would get high C or like Sprite or orange soda, and you would want, the Hawaiian pizza, as they called it back then, like pineapple and Canadian bacon, aka ham. I don't know what it is. Just there's got to be something neurological about like a child's brain that gives them that palate.
Well, pineapple on pizza, I have to take a Sweden like Swiss
Can't. Gotta
opinion
pick a
on
side.
because I will never eat it,
I
but
won't.
it's my wife's only pizza.
Oh,
that
that's
she
tough.
likes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I sort of have to defend it, but like my heart's not in it,
I feel like you personally disclosed that was a core part of your marriage counseling experience.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I was like, I don't care what you do.
You sound
about
defensive.
anything. I leave. It's like if I was in a war for pineapple on pizza, I would be the soldier to be like, all right, let's take the front, boys, and be like, it's pretty hard. I'm like, all right, I'm going home. That's it. I tried,
I'm going to say overrated, and let's get to the next topic.
Okay. All right, next one. Here we go. Our next topic is playing old consoles on new tech.
So plugging in your Sega Saturn on your 60-inch OLED TV. Josh, why don't you start with this one?
Okay. It's kind of the only way I would play an old console, or like emulated versions of it. So I think that's underrated. I really like really high def version of old pixels. Like I like it as crisp and as clean as possible. so you can just see like how grimy all that stuff.
I'm
looked.
about to walk out
I
of
like
this show. I'm
Are you
disgusted.
CRT only?
Yes. Or if you want to play it on a modern monitor, you need an upscaler. Or to use CRT shaders. I'm disgusted in
No, I hate that. I turn all that off. I want it as
but
raw dog as
But you
possible.
understand that what you're seeing when you see all the pixels is not actually the intent of the artist.
Right. Totally. 100%. I understand that. I love it. I love it.
So do you pet the cat backwards?
Yeah, I'll pet a cat backwards. Sure.
Okay.
Josh is a big cat guy.
I pet the cats both ways. I do like filters sometimes when you're like, you can turn that on and just see sort of what it does, and some of them get close. I feel like there's no CRT filters that ever look quite good.
No, there's no substitute. You got to get a CRT. For me personally, I think the optimal experience, I know people are into like the PVMs and the BVMs, which I get, but those are actually a little bit too nice for me. I think that the best experience is playing it on a mediocre TV with with composite cables.
Right.
Or even if it's like NES, I want to say even like RF might be
I was
the
going
way
to
to
say,
go.
plug it into a VCR first.
Yeah, if it's like NES. Like, legitimately, I think it's like I'm not even a hipster about it. I just think it's legitimately a better experience because it's reflective of what it actually was at the time.
Yeah, they've shown that image of even as far in as the PSX, you have Dracula from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The way his eyes look, they don't look correct when you're viewing the actual pixels. It was the dithering and that the CRT did that made it look really cool. Yeah, I like that. I like it raw and dirty too.
I'm with Finn. CRT all day. I've got a big 32-inch CRT. Does not do anything high def, but it has component inputs, and some of the consoles that natively can take component, like a PS2, look great. However, I do like seeing, what's the console? I have a Dreamcast with a great HDMI converter. Mwah, perfect. So that's the way to play Dreamcast. But N64, doesn't matter what filters or things you put on it. It's a muddy, textured mess, and I always on CRT.
So Josh,
even the Switch, even when they have the N64 games on the Switch, some of them are impressive looking. Like they just did Extreme G on it, which is an old like F-Zero racing game, and it looks great. Like, it looks awesome, but my heart always CRT.
Please tell me, Josh, you aren't one of these monsters that will stretch to fit 16:9.
What day is it?
Wow,
we'll see.
Truly
lawful. I have an ultra wide at home.
True chaotic neutral.
It'll just be. Typically, no. I prefer to have things in the aspect ratio they're supposed to be. But there's a couple times where you don't really have a choice.
Yeah,
kind of have to go with it.
That's it.
You always have a choice.
Right.
But let's move on.
You do.
I have extremely strong feelings about this topic.
It's there's going to come a day where you cannot find a CRT. Right?
Yeah, but you'll be able to get a Retro Tink or a Frame Meister.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if we have vinyl records coming back with new players, I feel like they're going to do something with CRTs in the future.
They'll make like $1,500 like gamer CRTs.
Yeah, maybe.
People, hardcore collectors will buy them.
Yeah, they will.
Are you going to get the cathode tube ray
There's some
tubes.
There's some factory somewhere that'll make them forever for whatever random like industrial applications or something.
If the Analog Pocket can sell out gussied up NESs, I think CRTs are not far behind. Imagine in the early 90s if someone would have said there's going to be a boom in vinyl records and players and all that, we'd have been like, you're crazy. Yeah. And here we are.
Okay, our next topic is one that's very near and dear to my heart. Overrated or underrated balding.
I mean, I'm not a fan.
I was gonna say overrated.
Very overrated.
Yeah,
I'm blessed with this Arabic head of hair. I'm a fan of it. Yeah. So I'm gonna say balding's overrated.
As a person whose experience with balding started at 16 years old, I would say overrated.
Okay. All right.
So,
Finn, Overrated?
Not a fan.
The next one.
Next one is...
Oh.
Let's get into it. Finn, I think you and I are of an accord here. Ocarina of Time.
Overrated, underrated.
Yeah. So I think there's a preamble here. We should first say the Zelda series is one of the greatest series of games of all time. The original Legend of Zelda was a monumental, just phenomenal piece of art that really just went above and beyond. Link's Awakening, in some ways, in my mind, is even better game. And A Link to the Past is like the prototype for how you bring a game from an old generation into a new generation. Like it's perfect from the ground up. And Ocarina of Time
is exactly the same.
Is like just a tragedy.
I totally agree.
Of sadness of like what happened to this game.
Hey, don't you wish that Zelda everything was a smeary green and brown blur? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. And you had to play it on the worst controller ever made.
Yeah.
These are all things I love.
Don't you wish they took
I'm cool with it.
Don't you wish they took all the like joy and like childish charm out of the game and just made it dark green, dark brown?
Don't you wish while playing the original game you were interrupted constantly? Just by the game itself. Constantly. Yeah. Somebody once described like the difference between like the old Zeldas and Ocarina of Time is like the difference between the excitement of exploring an unknown cave versus riding Disneyland's new dark ride, Explore the Cave. Like that's the difference, is that Ocarina of Time feels like an amusement park ride.
That's amazing.
If you're the type of sicko that also prefers Metroid Prime, then I guess I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's not a Metroidvania.
No, not at all.
Oh, so Finn, did you have Ocarina of Time hype back when it was coming out? Were you reading the articles and following along?
Yeah.
What was your journey?
Yeah, I was, but I'm extremely picky about art direction, not graphics, because those are two different things. Like graphical fidelity and art direction are two totally different things. For example, Earthbound, not the most impressive thing, in terms of graphical fidelity, but incredible art direction. I'm very picky about art direction, so as soon as I saw the screenshots, I was like, I'm out. This is disgusting.
Whoa. From the beginning.
Yeah.
You bring that up, to me, it's Mario 64 versus Ocarina of Time, because I think Mario 64's art direction fits perfectly with the graphical limitations that they had. It fits, and I think it's the opposite with Link.
Mario 64 is also really fun.
It is. Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah.
Well, losers, I'm going to say Ocarina of Time is probably overrated because it gets greatest of all time distinctions regularly. I can admit, as a self-professed N64 fan, that Ocarina of Time has its, limitations. It's stuck in its time period, but I still love it. I still would play it right now. I don't care if it's brown, green, purple, or whatever.
Which it is,
awesome.
all of those
it's
things.
It's a fun time. I think it's.
Yep.
I still go back and enjoy the way it feels to ride Epona, and I think adapting all of that 2D stuff to a 3D space had to have inherent limitations. But I still thought it was so well done. It was the first game I played where I felt like I was on a real adventure and really enjoyed it. And I liked the pacing of it, where you could meander in a town and get into a dungeon, but the dungeons weren't over long. The water, temple was super annoying and frustrating, but I still love the game. But I can say it's overrated because people still say it's better than God of War 2018. I'm like, no, it's not. But in my heart, it's strong.
Finn, let me ask you, the next series of Zelda games that came out after Ocarina of Time, do you feel like any of the 3D Zeldas, do you like any of
Wind
those?
Waker, yeah, because I felt like Wind Waker was a successful 3D update of, the Zelda formula, which.
And the art direction was really good.
It was amazing. And interestingly, everyone absolutely hated it at the time. I think now...
Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. Now I feel like people seem to appreciate it.
Love it.
But it was like despised at the time.
How do you feel about Breath of the Wild?
I hate it.
Really?
I think it's ugly and boring and sad, and the world is empty and there's nothing to do, and it feels unfinished to me. It feels like they made a really cool engine, but they didn't finish making the game. Yeah.
What about Tears of the Kingdom? Did you just skip because it's
I watched
kind of
my
the same
wife
game?
play it, so I'm pretty familiar with it. It definitely looks better. Or
Okay.
not looks better. I mean, it does look better, but
Right.
it seems to be a better game. But I also hate puzzles, so
Okay.
I would not enjoy it, but I respect it.
Nothing but in that game. There's no dungeons.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's
just the shrines and stuff. Like, how is it a
but those are just puzzles.
Yeah, how is it a Zelda game if I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to a dungeon. I'm like, oh, it's literally just like one crappy puzzle, and then we're done?
That's how I felt too.
Yep.
Like,
every single
that's
one.
it?
Yeah.
And there's like, whatever, 75 of them or whatever it is, and they're all the same?
Well, this is where we diverge because I do the Breath of the Wild is the first 3D Zelda game that I actually ever liked. But
Okay.
I understand.
Yeah.
I get it.
You mentioned you and your wife with games. Do you guys have games you enjoy playing together?
No. She will play one game like to absolute death for months. Like,
Okay.
she gets 100% on everything she plays. I mean, she played Genshin Impact for like 3 years.
Wow.
I don't know what that is.
She played that on console?
Yeah, Genshin
Okay.
Impact is a gacha game. It's brilliant. It's like probably the
is.
best looking game I've ever seen.
It's very Breath of the Wild,
Yeah,
too.
it's like Breath of the Wild but better, which I know is going
Yeah.
to upset a lot of people. But I mean, they had a lot more resources. Like the game makes billions and billions of dollars a year.
Yeah,
so
they
like,
made a lot more money.
yeah,
too.
so they have.
Did you play Honkai Star
She's
Rail?
playing Star Rail now, yeah.
played-
Which also the beginning of it's a little bit rough, but once you get into some of the newer like content, it's amazing. So, but it's turn based. So if you find the idea of Genshin interesting, but you don't like the battle system, then try Star Rail. If you prefer like turn based.
Interesting.
All right. Next
Let's
topic.
do the next topic.
Overrated, underrated. Running games from Blockbuster.
I'm gonna say underrated
Yeah.
because
Now.
it was nice to be able to go try out a game and not be locked in. Games are a lot cheaper now for access. I know there's still demos, but I also think because of we've shortened the ability to have access to things, there's an experiential element of Blockbuster that I don't think people will understand. Like going, and if a game that you wanted to get wasn't there, you would look around at the boxes and the other stuff, and then you would end up finding something that could be a new favorite. You can't really do that in the same way now. And also, when you're choosing between, let's say, 20 to 30 games versus now there's 200 to 300 games to play at a time, I'm going to say it's an underrated experience. There's, for all of the convenience that we have now, which I love, I love the experience of going and being like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a wild adventure.
Friday, and let's find out what this weekend's going to be like.
Same with films and everything as well. But yeah, I'm going to say underrated.
Yeah, I'm with you. The other part of it that I liked a lot is, or in hindsight, I don't know if I liked it at the time, but in hindsight was good, is that if you had this game for whatever it was, 3-4 days or whatever, and even if at first you sort of didn't like it, because you had committed to it, you would force yourself to play it for a little while. And so now it's like, oh, if I play something for literally like 90 seconds, and it doesn't grab me, I'm out. Same with music, so I think, there's the forcing function of making you stick with a game that might make you appreciate it. Like there's so many like NES games in particular that like I'd rent, like, I don't know, Ikari Warriors 2 or something like that I would never have like forced myself to, or Golgo 13 or something like that, which, in hindsight, I'm glad that I forced myself to play those for a couple days, because otherwise I would have bounced off them immediately.
I buy games on Steam now, and like I just skip the playing part. I just
Totally.
buy the game. Yeah, I don't even have
I mean,
to play it.
imagine telling the 11-year-old version of yourself, like, yeah, you're going to have 200 games and you haven't even played 3/4 of them.
Right, yeah. You don't know. They could be your favorite game in the world.
And it will cost less.
Yeah,
Right.
They're all $4.
Right.
Then, Speaking of art direction, Golgo 13, I do have to give a nod. That's a visually really cool looking game.
Yeah, well,
Have you seen that one?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
that's a
Go
great
Nagai
game.
is one of the all-time greats of manga.
All right, we got another good one here.
This is a juicy one.
Overrated, underrated. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, I think Sonic is underrated, but only because everybody correctly despises it. Like, here's what I want. So it has to sort of, by virtue of the fact that everybody hates it, it has to be underrated, but there's good reason for that.
I have a theory. Sonic was the mascot in a a side of a war that was happening, right?
You had to pick one.
Yeah.
It was the Nintendo Sega war.
It's a good theory.
The console wars. And I think that, obviously one side clearly won, destroyed the other side, but those people could not, they couldn't just let go and be like, well, we lost.
Wow.
Just people inundated in loss, right?
Okay.
This is an amazing way to grow an audience, Josh. Yeah.
I think as a 90s mascot, I think you're correct. Sonic is underrated because he's like a perfect encapsulation of like the 90s attitude, like a gecko on your shirt on a skateboard.
Yeah.
His games are completely overrated.
Yes.
Playing a Sonic the Hedgehog game is worse than not playing any game at all. It's just better to just sit and look at a off TV than it is to play a Sonic.
So I've never really been hooked by a Sonic game before.
Why
I've
would you?
tried because everyone's like, "Oh, Sonic's the best," whatever. And so I tried Sonic Adventure. I tried, even what's the one that they just did where it's
Sonic
like
Mania.
Sonic Mania. I tried all of it, and I've never been like, man, I got to keep playing this the way that Mario does or whatever. So, but Sonic All-Stars Racing, huge fan. I love that series. It's so fun. I like kart racers. They nail the mechanics of it. The multi-vehicle thing is better.
Just Mario Kart?
No, because the multi-vehicle thing it's so well done. Seriously, it's a great game. But I will say that as a dad with 3 small children, the Sonic movies, I expected to be like, let's move along. We loved them. They're such good, fun, like my kids were cracking up the whole time. I don't love Jim Carrey. He was great. Like everything in it was great. And also John Ralphio. He's a good Sonic. So I'm going to...
Cyclops as his buddy.
I'm going to say as a character, I try. It doesn't do anything for me.
How about award shows? How do you feel about award shows?
Strong opinions here.
Yeah.
Okay. Completely overrated. Completely overrated. I think having been a part of award shows, even on the small scale, the old band was in the Orange County Music Awards. It just was so clear to me from a multitude of experiences how much there's nothing genuine about any of those award exchanges. So I'm going to say overrated. Entertaining when Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig do a little bit. I'm a fan of that. Ricky Gervais has some scathing, hilariously funny monologues. That would not happen without award shows. So I'm not going to say they're garbage, but I can't remember the last time I was like, I need to watch a major award show, no matter what the genre of the award was.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Totally meaningless, in my opinion. Like, who cares? Especially because, these tend to reflect opinions that are very different from what normal people actually care about. Like, I mean, I'm not the most plugged into, like, cinema culture or whatever, but when I see the Oscar nominations for Best Picture and I haven't heard of any of them, that seems a little bit odd.
Yep. None of them were the movies that made, like, any money.
Yeah.
Other than, I guess, this year.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes a movie's made and they don't have the budget to find an audience.
But when you haven't heard about any of them, I understand, if sort of a smaller one sneaks in, that's cool. But if 5 out of 5, I'm like, I've never heard of this, that seems a little odd.
But on the flip side, if of the 5 Best Picture nominees, one of them's Despicable Me, because that's just what the popular one was.
Listen, I want to play for the winning team.
Yeah.
Whatever's popular, that's what I like.
Yeah, I'm tired of like, oh, this movie is the Oscar winner because it's about a king who has a sprained ankle,
right?
And he can't walk around. Who cares? I thought award shows to me are worse than overrated. They are a waste of my time.
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
good.
Nothing should go to jail more than wastes of my time.
I have a checklist for how I know that I'm not going to like a movie. If the trailer for it has rain, if it has sheer fabric, if it has horses, if it has crying, and if it has a strained mother-daughter relationship. If there's more than maybe 2 of those things, I'm probably out.
Yeah. I agree with those. Yeah. Rain, it's just like, it's great because it's like, well, I'm not going to go see this new Twister.
Right.
It's nothing but rain.
Especially now because movies are so dark. I'm like, okay, I'm just literally not even going to be able to tell what's happening on screen.
It used to be impressive when they made a movie and they did a rain scene and they're like, well, it's got to be milk because it's the only way it'll show up. Like, wow, that's crazy. And it's like now rain is just something they can generate.
Right.
And it's like, who cares? Why this doesn't have to be raining.
Wow.
All right, we're gonna do
Let's do a couple more.
Let's do a couple more. How about like I didn't know if I put it on here, but active time. Oh, there it is. Yeah, active time battle. Like what's the other word for that in JRPGs? It's like it's
not turn-based.
Turn-based, yeah.
Oh,
right?
turn-based.
But it's turn-based, but with a timer.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know if there's another word for it. I only know it for that.
The marketing was active time battle, which was kind of like Chrono Trigger. And,
well, I think it was Final Fantasy IV. I think was the first game to have ATB.
All square.
In practice, it was just the same as every other turn-based system. So I feel like it was kind of like overhyped.
It was the one thing that would happen and be like, well, you waited too long, so the enemy just went.
Yeah,
right.
But in reality, like, how often does that really happen? And like, in theory, if you put your controller down and went to go get a drink or something, the enemies would keep attacking you and kill you. But I don't know. I feel like it didn't actually really have any effect.
How do you feel about turn-based battle these days? Is it still something that you're into?
Yeah, definitely.
It is.
I don't like feeling rushed in games. I hate anything. This is why I don't like Majora's Mask either. Because like anything where I feel rushed, to me makes it not fun. That makes it feel like work to me. So I like to take my time.
I feel like when I play games with turn-based battles, I have to take a college course first on understanding the battle system. So for me, it feels like work, but in a totally different way. I think the reactive, nature of a first-person shooter is always going to be more engaging than like thinking of, well, if I combine these stats this way and then I activate my party members this way and I don't know. I get it. It's like chess.
Yeah.
And there's something wonderful about that. And when I learned that, it's so satisfying. So when I started to get the hang of, like, for me, Final Fantasy VII on the PS1 had that element where it felt like I could understand it. And it was a pretty simple, introduction. And I think that was by design, but it worked for me. And then Final Fantasy VIII come along and I was like, well, I'm out.
That one was like, it was a cool idea, but in practice it was very too convoluted. And also, once you understand it, you can break the game in like 45 minutes.
Yep. Yeah. I used to, that was my number one game genre. Turn-based fighting was like the way I lived my life. I have found as I've gotten too old that I just don't have time for it unless it is in a strategy game context. If I'm also able to position my people around a map and then pick what they're doing, I tend to like that more. I don't think I could play like just a new JRPG again, where it's just like we're lined up on the sides. And you pick, and then we go. Like I need at least, and I know they've been putting this in games like double speed, or like I just need everything to go fast.
I really like
boom, boom.
like probably starting with Super Mario RPG when they would include just some simple, action kind of element there, where like if you push the button right when you hit your attack, you do double damage. That sort of thing. That's a nice level of interactivity to me.
And to be honest with you, the offense part of it is not what really gets me. It's the defense part of it. Paying attention when the enemy hits you to be like, oh, let me see if I can actually block this. That made that half of the equation like interesting.
Right.
Instead of just like, okay, just tally it up so that I can get to my part. Like,
and
just
now
take
like
the
in
points away.
a lot of these RPGs, like in Honkai Star Rail, they just have auto battle for that reason.
Yeah, I like that. Did you play any of the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff with their kind of weird battle system that was sort of trying to have elements of it, but it's also just completely active?
I did not, but my wife did, so I sort of saw her play it, and
it.
it seemed cool to me from what I saw.
I think it's actually super fun because you can just sit there and be like, I just want to hit stuff with the sword. I don't care. But then you press the button and everything pauses and you be like, well, let me pick this.
Yeah, I like that. It reminded me of Fallout New Vegas, like VATS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. That's interesting. Fallout has a really great way of bringing in turn-based into a first-person shooter.
Couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
Open world overwhelms.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Well, Finn, tell us a little bit about you. We love to talk about our favorite games and the stuff we grew up with, even stuff we're playing now. Tell us about you and a couple of the games that you love that are favorites, and then we'll decide if you're rating them appropriately.
Okay. Do they have to be console games?
Nope.
Whatever.
Okay. I'll give you a grab bag of games that I would actually want to play now, which may be different. I could also give you, if you want, I could give you like 5 like kind of obscure deep cuts or something like that too.
No, what's a game that like right now you'd be like, I'll play that at this moment. I would start playing.
I mean, I could never go wrong with any of the Igavanias. You know, Symphony of the Night is the best, I think. Although you could also make a case for what was the second DS one? I always get the names. The one where you had
there's Aria of Sorrow, Dawn. Of
the one where you had to Dawn of Sorrow. The one where you had to draw the
Dawn.
Yeah, I think.
Oh no, that's So those are the DS ones.
Yeah.
That's
And the DS ones are Portrait of Ruin.
Yeah.
There's Order of Ecclesia and
Dawn of Sorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Dawn? It is because of DS.
Yeah, you could make the case that Dawn of Sorrow is the best. On the other hand, so to me that's a toss up. So that would be one. Can never go wrong with an Igavania.
Why can you never go wrong with an Igavania? What about those mechanics work for you?
Well, they're all the same, basically. So just the idea of having a non-linear world to explore, but it's not totally non-linear. So you're not going to get totally lost very often, and if you do, it's not for very long, because there's only one of like 5 different places that it could be. So I like that. I like, I think it was in Dawn of Sorrow. Is that the one where you collect the cards and you can equip them? Like you have like the 2 different cards, like like that's cool.
They did that in a couple of them. Yeah.
So I like that. There's customization, but it's not like overboard. And the art direction is awesome. The music in most of them is really good. The GBA games, just because of the limitations of sound hardware, the music was kind of rough. But I love the Symphony of the Night soundtrack. And I'm not generally like a game music person. But I mean, everything about it is just perfection to me. I really... I think that those are just some of the most satisfying games ever made.
Yep. The track Wandering Ghosts is like one of the top tracks.
Yeah,
of all time.
it's incredible. Another one would be Fallout New Vegas, one of my favorite games of all time. I do not like the Bethesda Fallouts. I only like New Vegas.
Yep. It's because it's made by Obsidian.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so weird. I feel like the two of you are
we're right online.
Like I hate the Bethesda Fallouts actually, but I love New Vegas.
What's the difference between the two for a Fallout noob like me?
It's the writing.
Yeah,
for me.
it's the writing. Yeah, that's 100% what it is. And
the
the quest design is a lot more sort of nuanced.
Much better companions.
Yeah.
The companion storylines were so good.
Yeah.
There's also, there is a certain element with Fallout. This is like getting deep into the Fallout lore. All of the Bethesda Fallouts take place on like the East Coast of the United States, which was not a Fallout, like the original Fallout games made by I forget who made them, not Interplay, but
whoever.
It was all on the West Coast.
Technically not canon.
Right. So Bethesda was like, well, we'll make it all over on this side. And a lot
they're
of people
from
are just like, this isn't the Fallout setting that we like. New Vegas takes place in New Vegas and the NCR, the New California Republic. That's all classic original Fallout setting. So, but I just think I think they make better quests. I think they do better job with making the world interesting.
Just more creative.
More creative.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree.
I'll give you another one. This is a little bit of a wild card. Saints Row 3 is one of my favorite open world games ever because it's basically a self-parody, but it's also great. And again, because like just the writing and the vibe and just everything about it is great.
Actually funny.
Yeah, it's legitimately funny.
That's a great pick.
I feel like there's only one game I've played that actually was funny, where I was actually laughing, and I can't even remember it. I don't know. I feel like storytelling in games, including funny stuff, there's only a few stories in games where I've been like, this is great. And it's usually because it's like, feels like a movie, not like a game, like Uncharted, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell a compelling and funny story for me when it comes to games.
You ever played Jazz Punk?
No.
I'll tell you another game. This is a little bit. If you're into PC games, you probably know this one. Caves of Quad. Have you guys ever seen this?
Yeah, that sounds super familiar. Is that old or new?
No, it's
like
new, but it looks like it's from like 1983.
Yes.
But
okay,
it has extremely deep like systems that are like a simulation level, sort of beneath the graphics. For example, like, if you are if you make a potion and dip your weapon in it, it will become coated in acid, and then if you go in the water will be acid, and if an enemy walks in there, it will start getting eroded by acid, and you can mutate. Like, it's super. It's like Dwarf Fortress levels of like.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. It looks like Dwarf Fortress. It's QUD, right?
Yeah. And it has just the most. But beyond that, it has just
it's
the
like
most.
Noita.
What's that?
Do you ever play Noita?
No, I've seen it, but I've never played
it. It's like the little wizard one, but the same thing where everything's a pixel and all the systems.
Yeah,
interact with each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
But what I really like about Caves of Quad is the vibe. Like, it's just like genuinely you feel like you've been transported to this bizarre alien. They don't explain anything. Like, it's obvious that there is like very deep lore, but none of it is explained anywhere. Like, even if you read all the books and stuff, like, they don't ever tell you why there's some group of people in the game that are like sentient goats. They don't ever tell you that.
Yeah, they just are.
Yeah, and it's just incredible. The music is also amazing, but I didn't expect to like that game, but it's such a great example of art direction in the sense of like the graphics are like primitive. Like, it literally looks like it's from 1983, but the fact that there's so little detail requires you to use your imagination to fill in all the details.
Dwarf Fortress kind of has the same thing where the graphics are so basic that they were able to put all of the time into the simulation part of it. So it's so extensive in what can happen because they don't have to render really any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I put that on my my wish list for Steam. Another great game for me to buy and maybe never play.
I mean, it's very impenetrable. Let's put it that way.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
John, was the story one that you're playing where you have to solve everything? You're mentioning it.
Oh, it's one of my favorite games last year, and they're making a new one. The Case of the Golden Idol.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
It's so good. It's just a sort of logic deduction game, but they give you these scenarios of like, here's all these guys and somebody's been murdered, and you just go around clicking on clues, and then you have to guess based on all the stuff of like, I think it's this guy with this thing, and here's what happened. But it gets like the first couple ones are sort of that level of like, how'd this guy die? And then it gets really intense later on of like, here is a council of people that voted on something. Who voted? In what way did they vote? What happened afterwards? And it's like, yeah, it's a great game. It's one of the, unfortunately, it's a game that like you can play once. Once you know the answers, you can't really experience it again.
Right.
So I just need them to keep making content for it.
Well, the last one, I think if I have 5, I think I'm on the 5th one. The last one is one that Mort, you'll definitely not want to play this one, is Factorio. Are you guys familiar with this?
Josh is.
It's like in my top 5.
I mean, for anyone who's not familiar, it's essentially an industrial engineering simulator.
Yeah.
And
you guys have a good conversation.
Yeah, right. And I had to uninstall it because I was like, this is scary. The first time I played it for like 7 hours straight, and like,
that's bad.
It felt like it was 10 minutes. I was like, oh my god, this is scary.
If I can pull up my Factorio, so I've been on Factorio when it was like version 0.02.
Yeah.
I was bought in very much. I'm trying to see if it has my time on here. I don't think that the mobile app will talk.
How much time, Finn, would you guess you've played Factorium?
Not very much because
Because you can't.
I deliberately uninstalled it because I'm like, no, this is gonna consume my brain.
My brother's like that with MLB The Show. He loves baseball and stats, and that game perfectly did it. And he goes, whenever he comes over, he'll play the game for a little bit, and he's like, that affirms why I'll never own a console, because I will just play MLB The Show, and that's a terrible use of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Factorio time's probably in like the hundreds and hundreds of hours, maybe like 4 or 5. But this is how I knew it was really bad. So Factorio is a game where, okay, you can make this drill that pulls up ore, and if you pick the ore up, you can take it over to this furnace and turn it into an iron plate. But you could also make a arm that would pull it out of the drill and put it on a belt that will run it over to the furnace, and then another arm will put in there. So now you don't have to do any of that. You've automated it. So now you're just pumping out these iron plates that you're making.
Yeah,
and
none of this sounds
what it got
exciting.
bad for me is when I started looking at ratios.
Yeah, exactly.
And saying like, wait a second, if a drill spits out 10 iron, but the furnaces can only handle 5, then I actually need to split the belt 2 ways.
It's legit industrial engineering.
Yeah, and the bummer is all the hours I've spent, I don't feel like I'm any better at engineering. I didn't get good at it. I just, I killed a lot of bugs and made a train. So.
Yeah, it's
great, man. Factorio.
I chose to sort of pump the brakes on that because I'm like, if I'm going to use this part of my brain, I want to use it on something that's going to make me money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. Make money, Josh.
This is the difference between you and I.
Yeah.
Is that I didn't see that at all. I was like, I'm having a great time.
And Josh has a full-time job and a life and everything.
Yeah,
so, yes.
For now.
I work like a chump. I'm a corpo from Cyberpunk.
There you go.
I was just in a corporate office all day.
Well, all right. Finn, we're kind of landing the plane here. Can I ask you a music question?
Sure.
I'll keep it brief. Josh is in a cover band called Finding Emo, and they play your favorite songs from the early aughts. What would you say is one essential song that they should cover?
Black Parade.
Okay, done. You guys play that too, right?
No, we don't. But,
really? That's like basically free money.
It is. You are correct. You're also like, I don't know, the millionth person that's been like, you should play Black Parade.
That's why you should do it.
That song, from a production standpoint, is so much of a theater production. Like, there's so much stuff going on there. So we've been
millennial nostalgia is free money.
Yeah. No,
I know this better than anybody on the planet other than the people who did when we were young.
The 35-year-olds in the breweries that we play with, they will love it.
Yes.
They also love any My Chemical Romance song we play.
Yes.
What's a deep cut that you think would be like, this should be in an emo set, but no one will know this song?
Well, I would never put a song in a set that people don't know. So,
okay.
That's
a great answer.
Yeah,
that is a good answer.
I mean, you don't want to be the DJ that ruins the vibe by putting some deep cut in, and all the girls are like, "Huh, what's this?"
Yeah,
you don't want to be that guy.
When a DJ plays any other song by Eiffel 65 that's not like the main one, right? It's like, who is this?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
I think they're the Blue guys, right?
Yeah,
blue dabba dee ba dabba dee ba dabba.
All right,
remember?
Well, Finn, thank you for sharing your gaming wisdom and knowledge with us. And
we didn't even talk about Milon's Secret Castle, Bionic Commando, or Clash of Demon Head.
Bro, let's go there. You said the 5 games that you could play right now. Yeah. Okay. Well, give me a couple
some deep
Finn
cuts.
McKenty nostalgia deep cuts.
Top games that sit on some list. They don't have to actually be on a 5, but it's like,
all right, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Milon's Secret Castle to me is a very underrated game. Kind of primitive. Would you, but I don't know. I feel like it's better than people give it credit for. I like that sort of sense of mystery. It sort of has an Elden Ring like quality of like just dropping you into this world that doesn't necessarily make sense, and you got to figure it out. I think it's pretty underrated. I actually think it's not. Isn't an all-time great? No, but it's pretty damn good. It has a sequel for Super Famicom. Have you played it called Do Re Mi?
No.
It's beautiful. I think it's from like 95 or something, like towards the end of it.
Do Re Mi, just the notes.
Yeah.
That's how it's spelled?
Yeah. I think it's like Do Re Mi. It's some it's Japanese, so there's some subtitle to it. Do Re Mi Fantasy or something. I don't remember what it is.
Then what makes it beautiful, like the game design of Mylan's Secret Castle is so obtuse.
Yeah.
Are you saying visually?
Visually, visually beautiful. The game design is a lot more straightforward also. But yeah, I would also, so I really like a lot of these like proto-Metroidvanias. Bionic Commando would be another one of those, which I actually would still play that game. I think that's really cool. Like that they, the convention of the time was like, oh, you can run and you can shoot and you can jump. And for them to take away jumping as one of the sort of elements and force you to move using the claw, I think was really cool. The art direction I think is awesome.
Music's great.
Yeah, music is great. It's sort of, to me, it's sort of like what Simon's Quest was kind of trying to do, but sort of got screwed up because Simon's Quest is so obtuse that.
Are you familiar with Jeff Gerstmann at all?
No.
So he was an games journalist from GameSpot back in the day. He's famously the guy that gave Ocarina of Time a perfect 10 and then gave Twilight Princess an 8 because he didn't think it was very good. He went and started Giant Bomb, and then he left Giant Bomb, and now he's doing his own thing. One of the things he's doing is he's ranking every single NES game, and his ranking system is literally just a text notepad. And when he plays a game, he goes, is this game better than this game? And he just moves up until he says, well, it's not better than this. As of right now, he's done like 250 games. He's doing them all. But Bionic Commando is like number one. I mean, because he played it early, and he's like, it's just all these other games are not as good as this game. We don't know if it'll stay number one the whole time, because he hasn't gotten to like Mario 3 or anything. Yep. But I have a feeling it's going to be up there.
I'll give you a couple.
And that's scientific.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I mean, Bionic Commando is damn good. It's really a shame that they never made a sequel that was any good. Kid Icarus, also similar type of game that is actually it's not as hard as people think it is.
Just weird.
It's not.
Yeah, it's really weird, but it's not that hard. The first level's hard, but once you sort of get through that, and the secret is to buy life barrels. That's the trick. Yeah, do that as soon as you can. What was the other game I was about to say? A couple Super Famicom games that are sort of some underrated ones. Front Mission Gun Hazard, which is a side-scroller in the Front Mission universe. That is like.
Did that come out over here, or is that
they eventually put it out on DS like 10 years later or something, like in like 2010 or something like that. Yep. But it's originally for Super Famicom. You can play the DS version is probably the best one. Side-scrolling game. But so if you're into that, if you're into these sort of side-scrolling games where you can customize your character and it has like RPG elements like experience points and stuff, it's really cool. Another game along those lines for Super Famicom that's awesome is the Japanese version is Assault Suits Vulcan. In the US, I think they called it Cybernator. Yeah, also fantastic game. Oh, you got it up there.
I did. There's a company called, I think it's Retrobit. They remade it with fixing some of the localization issues. And so I got that, and then I think I sold my copy, the original Super Nintendo one.
Got it. Yeah, that's a really great game. Hard. I don't think I ever beat it, but I got to the last level. Maybe I should give that one another try with save states so I can save scum my way through the end.
What's like a classic Josh NES deep cut that's not some of the ones you mentioned so far?
NES?
Yeah.
I don't know. I played a lot of like the famous stuff for NES. For Super Nintendo, my deep cuts would be like King Arthur's World and Metal Warriors.
Yeah.
That's the one I had. There's the what is it? Sweet Home? Is that NES or Super Nintendo?
It's the prototype of Resident Evil.
Yeah. But I can't remember if that was an NES game, Famicom game or something.
Yeah, it was Famicom.
No, it's Nintendo.
Yeah.
NES.
It's Famicom.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to play a lot of weird NES stuff because I was so young that the only way I was playing NES games was just what was at, Family Video or whatever. And it wasn't until Super Nintendo came out that I was like, okay, I can be a little more I wasn't as discerning as I should have been because I still played like Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally, which is like a terrible
I'll
game.
give you one last deep cut, which I feel like is a game that's known among dorks. But in case maybe you don't, is for PS2, God Hand. You guys ever played that one?
Yeah, that's a great game.
Yeah. Extremely hard. Yeah. Extremely hard. But
it is.
That game got bad reviews when it came out, which
Terrible.
which I thought was like, did you people just completely miss the point?
Yeah.
Like, of course the writing's bad. That's the entire point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like that game also like it was just doing control stuff that like people weren't ready for.
Yeah.
It's the same way that the PS1 version of that Aliens game that they made that people were like, this is insane. They made it so that you move with one stick and you aim with the other stick. Like,
Right. Why would anyone want that?
Literally, there's a game journalist who wrote like, it's the most confounding thing and I can't believe they did it. No one will ever use that. And then like Halo comes along and everyone's like, oh, this is how modern game control should be.
Alien did it first.
And Alien did it first on like the PS1.
Yeah.
But people just weren't ready for it.
Last one for you. Which again, I feel like, people know this one, but in case you don't know it, is Metal Gear 2, not Metal Gear Solid 2.
No,
but Metal
Snake's
Gear
Revenge.
2. No, not Snake's Revenge.
Oh.
Metal Gear 2 for MSX, which never came out in the US.
That's right.
And it is a totally different game than Snake's Revenge. It has nothing. They're two completely different games. Basically,
Is it Kojima?
yeah. It's essentially if you took Metal Gear 1 and just made it like 16-bit and better, it's that. And if all the mechanics in Metal Gear Solid are in Metal Gear 2, but it's in 2D.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's very
similar to the Game Boy one.
Yeah, like
the
Ghost
one
Babel?
that Ghost Babel.
Yeah. So if you liked Ghost Babel, like I would say Metal Gear 2 is better because
the MSX version.
Yeah, it's if you get the subsistence version of Metal Gear Solid 3 for PS2 on the bonus disc,
you get that.
Or you could just emulate the MSX2 game if you want. It's been translated.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the new Metal Gear
Super Collection.
it's on that. Too.
Okay, yeah, I don't have that, so I don't know. But yeah, it's really, 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 really good. It's not
you like any of the other Metal Gears?
Yeah, I love all of them. Really, yeah. Well, not Snake's Revenge because that's not really really a canon game.
You like Twin Snakes?
Yeah, I it's not. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like Revengeance. I consider those to be sort of
they're sort of offshoots.
Yeah, they're like Gaidens basically, and I don't love those. But all the like the mainline games, yeah, I think they're great. I think
3, huh?
Metal Gear, and Metal Gear Solid 5, I think is very underrated.
It might be one of the best controlling games.
Yeah, the systems are amazing. The writing is also hilarious. Like the Native American chief that wants hamburgers is amazing. He's one of the best characters ever.
Also, that game has a fantastic. I remember my friend who I was running like a website about games with. When that came out, we were sort of playing it at the same time, and like that game ends and then has a like season 2 trailer in the middle of it because you're only halfway through the game, and it's just so like good. Here's all these scenes of things that haven't happened. You're like, what is this? And they're like, oh no, he just trailered you the second half of the game that you're about to start playing now.
That's awesome.
And my friend texted me and he was like, did you see this? This is insane. He's like, I'm losing my mind.
Did you ever try choking one of your own soldiers on the oil rig?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like harder, boss.
I also really like that there was a meta game with the online portion of that where you could build nukes, but there was a special cutscene if everyone would destroy their nukes. If no one had nukes, there was a cutscene that would play that was like, we did it. No more nukes.
Man, that's the kind of stuff Kojima does that like...
Yes. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's all those little details that only Kojima can do. Yeah, and you know,
if it's your birthday, if you boot it up on your birthday, they sing you happy birthday, they pull out a cake and everything.
That's great.
They're never going to make a good Metal Gear game without him. It's just it's never going to happen.
They're done.
Impossible.
Yeah. Let me just ask you a real quick question because you obviously like Metroidvanias. That's one of my favorites. Do you have any modern ones that you really liked?
Shovel Knight's really good.
Shovel Knight?
Yeah. A lot of the art direction on a lot of them, like Guacamelee and stuff, I can't do anything that's like 2.5D or that's high res 2D looks like a Flash game to me. No, I can't do it.
Okay.
Again, just because I'm like too picky about that stuff. But yeah, Shovel Knight I thought was really good. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm not thinking of.
Did you like that one?
No, I can't do the art direction.
Gotcha.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, Finn, because from talking to you right now, how much game language you have and know. It's not something I would have expected. So it's really cool for you to spend your time with us and nerd out with us for an hour here. So thank you for being here.
No problem.
People, you can find Finn at the Punk Rock MBA and also Finn McKenty, the second channel, which is essentially just Over Under as a channel with just lots of hot takes. Which, by the way, you'll appreciate this, Finn. We got that from Pitchfork for doing Over Under, and that's...
I heard that they're your favorite publication.
Definitely.
Right?
Top of the list, yes.
Thank you, Finn. We appreciate you, man.
You too.
Thank you.